Okay, great. Well, I think give it a few minutes, have some people rolling in still, but we can get started to kick off this webinar. Welcome everyone to this exciting new webinar on how to grow a multi-million-dollar flower business. I am Farbod Shoraka, co-founder and CEO of BloomNation. Just to give you a little brief intro, back in 2012, I left my corporate finance job and decided to tackle the challenge of solving what was originally just my aunt's problem. She was struggling florist in Irvine, California. She was having a hard time keeping her shop alive. She opened up to me about her struggles around foot traffic dying down, more people going into grocery stores to pick up their flowers, wire service sending her unprofitable orders that really didn't have any retention. She didn't get the customer information. So she felt like she was just pumping out unprofitable orders. And so she was having a really hard time keeping the business afloat. So naively and arrogantly, I decided to quit my job and solve this problem for her. And fast forward to today, now almost 13 years later, BloomNation is an entire ecosystem full of tools that empowers local florists across the country, thousands of florists, both in the US and Canada, with tools to sell online and in store and help them run their business more efficiently. So we've done a lot of work over the last 13 years and partnered with many, many florists and really got to learn a lot about what makes a flower shop successful. And one of the earliest flower shops and businesses that we partnered with, Watanabe Floral, joined BloomNation. One of the early ones that should join BloomNation has also been one of the most successful ones. And as we started to think about how we can share insights on how to empower florists across the country to become more successful, it became a really great opportunity to have this webinar and share thoughts and learnings that are not just based on like tools that you can use, but really internal things that you can do within your own flower shop to grow and become more and more successful. And what we really understood about Watanabe is the things that they did to grow their business. We wanted to share that with you all. So we have things to go over regarding growth strategies, identifying the right direction, making tough decisions, cutting losses when you need to, which is really tough, unique marketing ideas. I'm going to go over some trends and some Q&A. But with that said, we want to introduce our guest here, Monty Pereira, the GM and Sales Marketing Director at Watanabe Floral, based in beautiful land of Hawaii. Welcome, Monty, to the segment.
Thank you so much, Farbod, and aloha from Hawaii to all of you out there. I'm certainly happy, Farbod, that you left the world of finance 12, 13 years ago, because without that, we wouldn't be where we are today.
Best decision of my life. So I want to start off by saying Monty's been an incredible partner on both ends. We've learned a lot from Monty. Monty's learned a lot through technology, through our platform as well. So we wanted to, create this webinar to share those things with everyone else. And really, BloomNation is really about investing in yourself. I kind of joke and say BloomNation is more like a gym where you got to go to the gym. You have a trainer, but you got to put in the work. And so the Watanabe's definitely done the work. And Monty's, helped us also understand how to better solve problems for flower shops across the country. So this is really about sharing insights in those things. And if you guys have, I should also mention, if you guys have questions along the way, feel free in the chat to ask questions. There'll be people standing by answering your questions live, and we'll have a Q&A at the end. But really want to get started now and jump into, how Monty, talk about your journey. I know this was back in 2016, I think it was, we met in Maui during the Society of American Florists, which was a great excuse to have a business trip to Hawaii. But that's where we really started creating more a bond around becoming a partner with BloomNation, but maybe start about how you started your journey with Watanabe and what was the business profile at the time?
All right, so I'll just give you a real brief history of Watanabe Floral. It's a family business that was started back in the mid 1940s by Ernest and Shizui Watanabe, um, who you can see on the screen there. Mrs. Watanabe actually just passed away last month at 106 years old, but she was the matriarch of the company. They started off as rose growers. So Watanabe Floral was a rose growing operation from 1945 till 1974. In 74, we became the first company to import flowers into the state of Hawaii. So we became growers and wholesalers. Then in the mid 80s, we began to dabble into retail in the form of like day old bread, whatever the florist didn't take in terms of roses and other flowers the public could have. So when I came on board in the mid 1990s, because I've been there for 28 years, it was about 50% wholesale, 50% retail at the time. At the time, the company was experiencing tremendous losses. And I'm a CPA by trade. So when I came to Watanabe Floral, I actually came to Watanabe Floral as the accountant. And then when you look at the financial statement, it was kind of staggering to see the accumulated retained earning losses that had happened over the course of the company's history. So that's kind of where it was when I first got there. It was a tremendous family business. You can see some of the family members on the screen. We have 80 team members now. Only 5 family members remain. The son, Russell, is the CEO. The other son is my director of purchasing, and his 2 sons, grandchildren, are my operations and transportation managers. So this is some of my management team that we have as well. But we're 80 team members strong, and we're a completely different business today than we were even when I started in the 1990s.
Yeah, so that's interesting because you're kind of coming into a family business which has its own challenges, and you kind of have to, there's a lot of it's delicate there. And so for you, what was the turning point for the business? Because you're coming as an accountant, you're seeing some opportunities. And I know obviously like when Watanabe and BloomNation partnered up, that was another kind of point in which we started investing in the online presence and growing that. But what were the turning points that you saw as you started joining the organization? You had like a fresh set of eyes and identifying those growth opportunities.
Yeah, so as much as the family is just absolutely amazing people and wonderful people, it is hard to navigate a family business because they have their own set of passions, they have their own set of things that they really, really love. So what was very evident immediately is that the growing operations at Watanabe Floral was the biggest cash strain and cash drain on the company. But Mr. Watanabe, that was his passion. Growing roses was his passion, and he was stubborn in the fact that he is not going to stop doing that. But eventually, we had to make the very, very difficult decision to stop growing everything. And so in the early 2000s, we closed we had 36 acres on 2 islands that we were growing product, and we had to close those down. And that was very, very difficult for the family, who had all of their love and passion was growing roses for, at the time, was almost 60 years by the time we shut down the last farm. And that was very, very difficult. But from a cutting off losses standpoint, that was the key. So I thought, when I first got there, the most important thing was stopping the cash drain. Then we could worry about trying to grow the business. Because if you're growing the business when you're losing money, you're just digging a deeper hole. So we did that first. We stopped the drain, and then we're able to turn our attention to how do we grow the business.
Yeah, and that's such a big point there because I think a lot of businesses, your owner, especially if you're owner operated, like Watanabe has the luxury of being able to bring on someone like you, Monty, but a lot of the flower shops that we have on our platform, a lot of them are owner operated. They're doing it all themselves, and so it's really hard to pause and take a look at your business when you're running it, you're opening the shop, you're dealing with all the things that you have to deal with on the customer end and the purchasing side. To really pause and think like, well, what is working and what is not working is a really tough thing to do, and it's hard to carve out that time. So this is a great example of just kind of looking at what is profitable and what's not profitable. There are tough decisions to make, and like making those choices, because sometimes you could be quite passionate about something and excited about it, but it's not making money. And so that is a tough choice to make. And like oftentimes those are the hardest things to walk away from, but they'll end up helping your business the most. So I think like the lesson here is really just take a look at what's happening and be very open-minded around what is working and what's not, because ultimately we're all, as a flower shop owner, you're partly an artist and a creative, and sometimes that creativity doesn't turn into profitability, and that's a tough thing to swallow as a flower shop owner. So from your standpoint, what were the key changes that you guys had to make? I mean, you had to convince a family that you need to cut a certain part of the business off that is, a passionate part of the business. How do you navigate that kind of thing? Is it just coming from a standpoint of like looking at the numbers, or how do you really, what's the strategy around that?
Yeah, it's definitely looking at the numbers and then painting the picture of what is happening, what could happen if we do not make this change, and how making this change could lead to a more profitable future. And what I want to make sure that everyone understands, because we're all on this webinar in different phases, and not everyone can relate to being a grower, wholesaler, and retailer. In fact, most people can't relate to that. But I think the message that I want everyone to kind of understand is everyone has an opportunity to measure what's important to them. And, coming from a CPA perspective, what you measure, you can take action on. And I think one of the things that I see in small flower shops is that you're absolutely right, Farbod, is that they get so busy and overwhelmed in the day-to-day operations. And they come from a creative standpoint. Most people get into a retail floral business because they love flowers, they love artistry, they love creating. And sometimes that part of the brain is different from the financial part of the brain. Um, and it's the blending of the two things to be able to measure your costs, measure operating expenses so that you have a firm grasp of what you need to do in terms of pricing and identifying areas that could be of loss. So I think one of the things that everyone can relate to is coming out of COVID, staffing was just a tremendous burden. And it still remains. We still are unable to staff up as necessary. So a few years back, we had to make the decision. We're unable to do everything that we're currently doing. Something is going to have to go. And so we made the difficult decision of pulling all of our marketing for weddings. It's not that we don't do weddings. If somebody generically comes to our door or they generically go to the website and inquire about weddings, we'll still assist them. But we pulled everything out of, Wedding Wire and the Knot and Wedding Pro and all of those types of things. And we made the conscious decision that weddings take so much time in terms of consultations and follow-ups, and everything has to be so precise, because for the bride and groom, it's the most important day in their lives, that we thought we were better suited investing in our online business and our everyday retail than we would be chasing weddings and everything that went with that. And we don't like to do that because, you want to be a part of everyone's special occasions. But for us, at least for now, that really worked. We didn't want to give up sympathy because that's just such a precious moment and such a blessing to help people with their last celebrations of life. So we pulled back from weddings, and I think any florist can understand what areas are you dealing with, what areas are you working in, and how truly profitable is it when you take a look at not only cost of goods sold, but the amount of time, effort, and operating expenses dedicated to a particular area.
Yeah, and that's a great point. I think just looking at things from a accounting perspective, and you having an accounting background made it a lot easier, but a lot of these things are kind of can be easily done. You can do a back of the envelope kind of analysis. You don't have to get too much into the weeds to just have directionally understand if something makes sense for your business. We talk about this a lot at BloomNation, is around, at like, for example, even average order value versus how much your average price points are on your site. If there's a discrepancy between how much the average person is spending on your website versus how much you're generally listing your products for, if there's a difference there, you got to evaluate that. if there's a difference in how profitable each arrangement is, you got to understand how many stems are going in each arrangement, how long does it take to make, how much do the vessels cost, all that all together, your cost of goods sold, as you mentioned, you need to understand, do you have a consistent profit margin across all your products? These are things that you can kind of quickly do, but it does require you to pause and take that analysis and make those tough decisions. Like for the example that you gave around stopping the wedding business, it's not easy to do that. It's not an easy decision. And so to look at the numbers and make a calculated decision that doesn't necessarily feel great, to pull back from the concept of weddings and taking away all that, marketing effort away to save money and put it in other places is the right move, but it doesn't sometimes feel the best in the beginning. So with that said, like talking about marketing, as you guys were able to kind of reserve those resources on the marketing spend, where have you then put that marketing effort into in other places? I know you've successfully, like you said, grown the retail side of the business, but now that you had more, mind share and capital that you were able to save from the wedding side, what strategies did you use in marketing for the retail to help propel your growth?
Just real quick, Farbod, before I get into the marketing, I think the other thing that people can do in terms of cost, and this is something that we really did, especially as we moved into BloomNation and that huge influx of volume that came with that. I think many of our designers, and my design team is no different, they just love just making custom pieces, when they can just pull flowers and just do whatever they want. But that's very difficult to have rapid growth when you're trying to custom make everything on a daily basis. It's expensive to do that. So what we did is we kind of simplified our offerings, clearly identifying the items that are selling the best, that were the quickest to do. Insertions and all those types of things matter, especially when you're shorthanded. And COVID was an eye opener for us because volume exploded, staffing was a struggle. So we really had to identify what can we make the quickest, that we can get out the fastest. And that's something that we did. Now, in terms of marketing, yes, you're right. When there was more cash available, and the Watanabe family is like a traditional Japanese family where they believe in no advertising, no self-promotion. It's all word of mouth. And that was an archaic way of thinking. So let's talk about the digital marketing, and then I'll talk about some of the other things that we did. I think the best decision that we ever made was moving to BloomNation. And then in moving to BloomNation, you start to get access to all of their digital marketing products. So for example, the email marketing that BloomNation does, I wanted to share this with you folks. I pulled up the data that they provide us just for the month of September, which for us is our slowest month of the year. September in Hawaii, there's really nothing going on. So it's our slowest month of the year. And this is some of the statistics that we had just from our September metrics. There were 356,000 emails sent on behalf of Watanabe Floral Blind BloomNation with a 41% open rate, which is crazy good. We had 1,536 clicks, 163 conversions for over $23,000. So this is direct sales coming from marketing efforts that BloomNation is doing on our behalf. Now, some of you may be asking, how do you get 356,000 emails? That's the part that Farbod alluded to earlier. We have to take our responsibility in creating and generating interest as well. So we invest in ourselves. We do SEM. We do digital marketing specifically for everyday items. We do digital marketing specific for sympathy items. So I think that's the biggest thing that you have to understand, is that the tools are in place to help you, but the more you put into it, I love Farbod's analogy about exercise. Like if you go on the treadmill 1 day a week versus, 5 days a week, you're going to get better results the more you do it. And I think marketing is the exact same way. So, we went from no marketing to we spend about 3% of our revenue on marketing, which for us, I think that's pretty standard. But most of that is now digital marketing because that's where the future is going.
Yeah, and what we've noticed is that there's obviously, from the world of wire services, there was this feeling that you could pay into getting results. Like it was almost like if we're going to continue with the gym therapy. It's like going and getting surgery to have abs, like you just pay into it and you would get the results. But really what this is like staying away from the idea that I pay for a membership to a wire service and they're going to feed me orders and I sit back and take in those orders, to I'm going to take control of my business. I'm going to evaluate my business. I'm going to invest in my business, and I'm going to invest in myself. And even for those of you that are here today watching this webinar, you're investing in yourselves because you're trying to learn how to do this and how to become successful. And I think just talking to other florists, being able to understand what's working and not working is a great tactic to use. And this webinar is, kind of getting everything on a silver platter from one of the most successful florists in the country to understand what they do to have grown their business. Now, again, some of it is tools, but a lot of it is their internal discipline and focus around evaluating their business and making decisions and deciding to invest in themselves and grow. And so that moment when Monty decided to step away from the wedding world and come into more retail side, grow that side, those decisions were quite critical. And I'm excited to learn more things from you, Monty, on things that you guys have done. But part of it is also just being flexible and fluid in marketing. You kind of have to listen to the market, understand some of the stuff can be scary. But I don't know if you have any thoughts on like that kind of idea of being flexible in the market and where to put your mind share and efforts, or any unique ideas that you guys have had along the way.
All right. So just real quickly, I want to touch on the wire service thing because we don't do any wire services. We tried a wire service about 20 years ago and we lasted only about 6 months. And especially now with the digital world. So say you generate $100,000 a year in wire service sales, but they take 30%. What could that $30,000 bring you at 100% of the revenue if you invested that 30,000 on your own in digital marketing in some way, shape, or form? The returns to me are going to be far greater if you do it on your own. Now, time can be an issue, and I realize that, but that's kind of one of the tricks of the trade is understanding that generally speaking, you're giving 30 cents on the dollar every time a wire service order comes in. If you put that money to use for your own and you bring in 100% of that income, your profitability inevitably will go up and you have more control over what you're doing versus waiting for someone else to send you business. So that's kind of the first thing. Now, being nimble, Farbod, is the most important thing that you can do. And I think initially like I talked about with the history of Watanabe Floral, getting away from growing and then focusing on retail was something that was a challenge. Again, pivoting away from weddings was another challenge. And then during COVID, we kept getting shut down in Hawaii. And most of the country, flower shops were able to remain open during COVID. And in Hawaii, everyone gets shut down unless you carried food. So in 2020, I made the decision after we were shut down for the second time, you know what, if it requires us to carry food to stay open, we're going to carry food. So we got registered with the state Department of Hawaii as a food provider. We started bringing in produce and bread and milk and eggs so that we were able to stay open. And that was a pivot that no one saw coming, but it allowed us to stay open. And to this day, we still have foods as part of what we do. But the other thing that pivot allowed us to do is really partner with other people here in Hawaii that sold things that align with floral. For example, snack providers, chocolate providers, Island Olive Oil is another company that we work with locally. So as they were struggling, we kind of formed a way where let's help each other out to survive this. And those partnerships have continued, and those partnerships have leveraged our customers plus their customers to help us get far more reach than we would have on our own. So those are some, quick examples that I think everyone can relate to, is just kind of understanding what the market is bearing, what the market in your particular area is showing you, and just listening to that, because sometimes people get really, really stubborn in pushing through something, and that could be a fatal flaw. So it's kind of even if your favorite arrangement is something that you believe in, if it's not selling, switch to something else and try something different.
And you and I have talked about this, which I thought was so clever on your behalf. Like what you were mentioning earlier around not like the family not believing in self-promotion or marketing in general. You have to get really creative around how you can still market without marketing. And so we talked about this, you know, and this is kind of feels like almost like a hack or a secret around what people can do. But you talked more about like you had to turn into bartering as a way to market. And that, I thought that was really interesting. Can you tell us more about how you leveraged the idea of bartering to grow the flower shop retail side?
Uh, Absolutely. So, like I alluded to, the family didn't really believe in marketing dollars. So when I came on as the sales and marketing director, in order to generate any kind of major advertising, I had to barter it. You know, so I went to every radio station, and I went to the newspaper, and I went to TV stations, and I asked them if they wanted to barter. And we have the blessing of having a product that is in such demand at Valentine's Day, at Mother's Day, and at Christmas for the most part, that radio stations want access um, to our product. So I was able to negotiate contracts for tens of thousands of dollars with multiple uh, avenues, and even to today. And we do a lot of TV here in Hawaii, but all of our contracts have at least a 25% barter built in. So I think that's something that I think most florists don't think, whether you feel that you're too small or that's something that's out of your reach. Um, I don't think people realize that it's not necessarily that. I think if you reach out to them and say, "Hey, do you have a lifestyle show? Can I provide an arrangement that, you know, you can mention that comes from our shop? Um, I can provide something. Can I come on once a month to give a floral tip?" These are things that you don't have to pay for, that creates a relationship with the TV station or the radio station that allows you to leverage their reach when you really need it. And one example this year for Mother's Day, at the end of April, sales seem to be a little sluggish compared to um, what we were hoping for. And I've cultivated such a good relationship with the television stations here in Hawaii that I reached out to them and say, "Hey, can you help us out?" And all three stations sent news reporters to our shop over a period of a couple of days, all did stories on us, and immediately we got back on pace. So that's 15, 20 years of cultivating a relationship. But I think most people, for both, don't think that that's within their reach, and it really is. All of these television stations have specific programs designed to help the smallest of businesses, and that's what we do. We're not a conglomerate that spends hundreds of thousands of dollars with these TV stations. We take advantage of their small business opportunities and leverage that relationship. If you go to our website, you look at our press page, look how many opportunities we've had just in the last year or two on multiple TV platforms, and that's all unpaid for. Those are all things that were free for us after cultivating a relationship over time. So I think don't be afraid to contact your local media and see if there's a way for you to partner with them, because they value what you're doing. They value our floral products and they'll be interested.
Yeah, that's such, I mean, the two big takeaways from that is that one, like you said, just it doesn't hurt to try. Like you could go out there, create those relationships, the outreach to the community as a local business is so powerful. And again, it is hard day to day. Everyone's like in the zone of just like doing what they need to do, but carving out that time to have that outreach and get that marketing is powerful. And secondly, the bartering system is really efficient because the person that you're bartering with values, let's say, the arrangement in their perception, because from a retail value point might be $200, but maybe it only costs you $50 worth of product. And so by bartering, you're getting a lot more out of it from what you would do instead of going out and spending the marketing dollars on, let's say, ads or print or whatever, maybe digital or print. The bartering allows you to spend far less and get a lot more. So that's a great like opportunity that seems quite untapped. And you as a local florist, not a lot of people are doing this. So you knowing that you can kind of carves out a unique position for you in your local market. So that's a great tip there. And I think more
And
people should.
this And just real quick, like if you, the way to start with this is to, like, for Valentine's Day, work with a TV station or a radio station and offer if gift cards if you have them, or gift certificates if you have them, because the data shows that only about 30 to 40% of the people actually redeem their gift certificates or gift cards. So it may not be costing you anything, and you're getting all of that upfront publicity. And if it does cost you anything, that means that they are redeeming the gift certificate, which means you have a new customer. So really, that's the way to start. It's kind of like a no loss situation. If they redeem the gift certificate, you'll have a slight cost, but you have a new customer. And if they don't, you still leverage all of that publicity.
Yeah, that's great. And like, we're talking about PR and just like the marketing in general. One of the best ways to market your business is just by having great customer service, right? Talking about, how you can make someone's experience so great that they come back and they talk about it with other people. And a lot of that is driven inside the core values of a flower shop. And again, you might not feel like you have time to think about core values. I know as a tech company, it was quite trendy to have mission statements and core values and make that very, very part of your starting of your tech company. But I don't know if it's a big thing for flower shops. And so I know Watanabe has been very driven by values from day one as a family business and all the way to today. And part of that, those values are driving the conversation and part of the marketing strategy in itself. So can you talk? I know it's a big role for you guys. So can you talk about that and how it plays a role in your success on the retail side and the customer side?
Absolutely. Even if from when the company started in the 1940s, even if we had to pivot away from certain things, one thing that we've never pivoted away from is our values. In the Hawaii, our mission is e ho'omau pono. It's a Hawaiian phrase. Ho'omau means to perpetuate, to continue to last, to be willing to change. And pono means to do things with morality. And when you have an E at the front, it becomes a command. So e ho'omaupono means to continue to last, to perpetuate in our community by doing things the right way all the time. And that's the foundation. Our first core value is the spirit of aloha with lots of love. Our expectation is that our people treat each other and our guests with that spirit of aloha with lots of love. We strive, our second value is people first, meaning we want selfless mindsets. We want people to think about the next person, whether it's their coworker or it's our guest, and then we strive for exceptional service. You're absolutely right, Farbod. I think the Amazon effect on customer service is real. I mean, Amazon changed the expectation of the consumer, and the consumers expect things immediate. The consumers expect things the exact way that they want it. And that's the reality of the customer service world. So one of the things that we implement at Watanabe Floral is we have 100% guarantee if we're notified within 48 hours of something being wrong. And that was one of the biggest changes I had to deal with my team, because sometimes that you're absolutely right, that you didn't do anything wrong. And every once in a while, you're going to have somebody that takes advantage of you. And I just told my team, as long as we continue to do the right thing all the time, everything will balance out. So if somebody's taking advantage of us, we believe in things will work itself out. So servicing people with in mind that, are we doing this with the spirit of aloha? Are we keeping their interest first? Is this a form of exceptional service? If you can answer yes, that's what you should do. If you answer no to anything, then you shouldn't be doing that. So on the screen now, you have some of the things that we talk about in terms of getting involved in the community. And this has been another part of our growth, believe it or not. These are some of the fundraisers that we did just this year. We've worked with the Alzheimer's Association. We've worked with Make-A-Wish. We've worked with Brave. And this year alone, we're going to give away over $30,000 in cash in a number of fundraisers. But I think this is something that anyone can do. Again, if you go to our website right now, we have a current fundraiser for the Women's Fund of Hawaii on our BloomNation site. It's at watanabefloral.com. You can kind of see how we do this. We just assign 4 of our most popular arrangements. Whatever is purchased during the course of the month, we give 20% back to the organization. So you can see the impact that it has in terms of cash outlay. But again, even if it seems like we're giving away $30,000 this year, what we've generated is tremendous goodwill with the community. Our staff is super excited about the opportunity to help other people. So it gets them engaged and it gets them excited. And now we're leveraging all of the contact information from all of these organizations who take it upon themselves to market all of their people to come to Watanabe Floral's website. So it's a definite win-win situation that I think any florist in the country can do with your favorite charity.
Yeah, and that's a great point. If you're not as big as a Watanabe, you can donate flowers. It doesn't have to be cash. You can bring arrangements to different organizations or nonprofits or just people in need and be a part of that. Again, it goes back to outreach of the community. And that is not only, making people happy, and kind of why you started the business is to see people smile and be happy, but also allowing them to have a relationship with your flower shop. It's a really powerful thing. So if you're as lucky as a Watanabe to be able to generate enough business to now donate cash back, great. But if you're not, you can still donate flowers or be a part of the community through bringing arrangements to different organizations, which is it creates a lot of happiness and joy, and then bonds that relationship between you and the organization, which is great.
And I think, and for what I think the consumer today is becoming more and more interested in working with companies that care about more than just themselves. And people want to support organizations and flower shops and everyone else that is trying to leverage what they do to help others. And so I think it's an important part of your overall marketing strategy, but it can't be, you can't do the community service aspect just for marketing. It has to be genuine and from the heart in order for it to really be effective.
Agreed. It should be things that you care about, that you want to help out, you feel a connection or passion towards it. That authenticity is really important in this type of effort, which is great. Speaking a little bit about the customer service and the things that you guys have done to make sure like people have a really good experience at Watanabe when they order, as I've seen across the thousands of websites that we power, some of the most successful florists, one of their core values, whether it's explicit or not, is around consistency. And so you guys talk about that in terms of like, if someone's not happy, they can come back. And that's because you've invested in the idea of delivering what is promised. And I think that's such an important thing that all florists should realize. If there's one thing, if I were to start a flower shop myself, the one thing I would hone in on is consistency of product. We talked, as Monty, you mentioned, like the Amazon effect. Not only is around the service part, but just expectations. I'm ordering something, I get it the next day, it's exactly what I've ordered. Now, those are products, so it's a lot easier to do that. But if you could do that in floral and have your designers and your team really hone in on a consistent experience, nothing is better. Because as a customer, you don't want to be surprised, right? You want the recipient to be surprised, but as someone who's ordering, you want to see what you're getting and get it delivered as you saw it. And that's an important part, I would say. And that kind of bleeds into what you were talking about around, satisfaction. And that's how you get satisfaction, is someone getting what they expected, which is a great thing to hone in on. So as a flower shop, I think that should be everyone's core value, whether it's explicit in saying just consistency or in the customer experience in general. But
Yeah, for us, that falls under the exceptional service component. You're
absolutely.
absolutely right. It is making sure that they're getting and they're completely happy. And if they're not completely happy, then you make them happy.
Yeah.
Even if you're gonna lose money on that one particular order, they're gonna come back again and again and again, and you're gonna more than make that up. And there's a tremendous negative impact to getting somebody unhappy and they give you a 1 star. There's a financial impact to that that's just not worth doing. You want to get people happy, because sometimes when somebody is disgruntled and you do the right thing to replace it or refund them, it changes them from, oh my gosh, these guys are horrible, to, oh man, I can trust them because even if something goes wrong, they're going to make it right. And then that builds more of a long-term commitment and relationship with the consumer than trying to leverage every order to the max.
Absolutely. You've now taken away that anxiety on future purchases because they know if anything does go wrong, that you will take care of it. That is worth so much money. And so you're right. There might be a few people that, take advantage or over complain, but in the greater scheme of things, having this policy and this mindset around customer happiness is going to pay its dividends far into the future. So I think this is a great call out around customer service and how you can leverage even bad situations where potentially something went wrong, turning them into lifelong customers instead of somebody that's going to go and give you a 1 star and never order again. So you can turn those bad situations into great ones. One big thing that I know that you are personally passionate about, and overall, I would say the culture of the Hawaii is around sustainability. And today, ironically, today is World Sustainability Day, which is very cool that we get to talk about this. But one of the core values, in addition to the customer service, is around sustainability. And so I would love to hear why it's so important for you personally and for Watanabe and for Hawaiians. I think like the land itself is so precious and it's part of the culture in general, but I'd love to hear how Watanabe is involved in sustainability.
Sure. Yeah, we are an island state. We're a series of islands, and obviously anything that impacts the land, the ocean, has an impact on us. So in Hawaiian culture, the aina, which is the Hawaiian word for land, is the most important thing, and everything was dedicated towards taking care of the land. So it's kind of innate in us, and for me as a native Hawaiian, it becomes even more important. So we try to do everything that we can from a sustainability standpoint. On the screen here, you see a picture of us. We actually have, again, on our website, we have a relationship with the Hawaii Legacy Reforestation Project. What happens is people can actually purchase trees to be planted. We have a part of this forest that is a Watanabe floral forest. So that's where you see our team there on the left. We actually went out to the forest and we all planted trees on that particular day. And it's a way to, the more trees you plant, of course, you have a positive impact in terms of the environment. What you see here is called a lo'i. This is an old Hawaiian area where you grow food. And so what you see being grown there is taro, which is a staple food for Hawaiian people. So we get our staff involved in these kinds of things to make them understand why we want to be sustainable and get them excited about sustainability. Because at the end of the day, you need everyone to be moving in the same direction if you want to make an impact. And on the right, that's my wife and I planting our own tree. So those are things that we have on our website that are actionable, as well as getting people involved from our team so that they understand the importance. And then, of course, you want to buy sustainable flowers from suppliers. You want to be aware of where you're getting your flowers from. So those are things that everyone is able to do. And then the one thing that any florist, even if you're a one-person operation, that can do from a sustainability standpoint, that's also proven to be great for marketing, is we do a vase recycling program. So people can bring back their vase, and then we give them credit that they can use that day to go and purchase more flowers or anything else. So these are on the screen. You see examples of vases we've taken back, all shapes and sizes. And we're pretty liberal in what we take. And if we're unable to use it again, or we put it in an area where maybe somebody wants to buy it for 50 cents, if we're unable to use it, then we'll donate it to a Goodwill type of a situation. But we encourage people to take ownership of sustainability and encourage them to bring them back. And then they can use that immediate credit to purchase something else. So you can do it that way, or you can just, there are florists that I know of that you bring back your vase and we'll fill it with flowers for you. That's another way that you can do it from a marketing perspective. But again, on our website, that BloomNation created a wonderful sustainability page for us that kind of shows what is important to us and what we're doing. And this vase recycling program is listed there. And I think really this is something that any florist can do to generate interest, show the community that you care. And I fully realize that not everyone is on an island. In fact, probably none of you are on an island. But there are sustainability practices that you can do in your community, whether it be trash pickup on the freeway or other initiatives that you can get your team involved in or get involved with the community that can make a difference as well. You don't have to be in an island to understand the impact that sustainability has. And again, just like community-driven organizations, the young consumer wants to know you care, and sustainability is very important for that young generation.
Well, Monty, sometimes I feel like I'm on my own island. So, but either way, like I think the idea of bringing the recipient customer relationship back to the flower shop, because I imagine these are the recipients of the flowers getting it, which you tend not to have a direct relationship with. The purchaser obviously ordered it and they have that relationship with you. Now you're bringing the recipient into the shop, giving them incentive to bring the vase and get, you know, an opportunity. Obviously, they like flowers if they're receiving them. So having that, bringing that second customer essentially is a incredible way of doing both right by the earth, Mother Nature, and also helping create a marketing angle around bringing in the recipient and turning them hopefully into a customer as well. Sustainability
Absolutely.
in general is it's trendy. I think you and I talked about this, and you might have mentioned a little bit about like the fact that people care about where things are getting sourced now and the values of a company. These are all things that are becoming more and more important to the consumer and the purchasing behaviors around the country. So, you know, sustainability being a trend, we also have a lot of other trends that we've seen happen here in 2024, and some that we're seeing that are going to, you know, definitely make it through 2025. We've done some homework on this, again, powering a bunch of flower shop businesses, thousands across the country in Canada. We can see we have a lot of data on what's selling, what's not selling, what's doing really well. And so we've actually invested in doing a whole report on this, which I think we also made a video, and there's a PDF that we can send out, and you can watch the video on this. But we wanted to, you know, go over some of this stuff and highlight some big trends that we're seeing. And so to do that, I'm going to bring a surprise guest to some degree, because we didn't introduce her. But Sonia heads up our marketing at BloomNation, and she's kind of been the person that's done the analysis around this and has some really interesting thoughts on what to look for in 2025 in terms of trends for floral.
Thank you so much, Farbod, and hello, everyone. I will be very brief covering the emergent 2025 trends because we received so many great questions from you, and we want to leave enough time to respond to your questions. So please stay tuned. So as Farbod mentioned, sustainability is a huge trend, but let's talk about some other trends that we're noticing this year and that we predict will carry over into 2025, starting with the color selection. So if you remember, about a year ago, we were very much immersed in these neutral palettes and subdued colors. So now we are seeing a lot of rich, vibrant colors. And Kim, we can go to the next slide, please. And these are jewel tones and really bold colors. We're seeing sapphire blues and ruby reds. And these color choices are now making a splash even in wedding trends. And of course, all white weddings will always be classy, romantic, and desirable. But you might be noticing right now there are more and more requests from customers for colorful splashes in weddings. And Brides magazine recently came out with 50 unexpected colors to anticipate in weddings. Now, let's move on to the next trend. And what we're also noticing this year is an increase in the use of exotic florals. And for you, Monty, that might not be the case because you are in Hawaii. You always have enough exotic florals, but we're seeing that now more and more florists are incorporating birds of paradise, anthurium, flowering ginger, gloriosa, and other exotic flowers that used to be rare. Perhaps it's because they're more accessible now, but this is definitely a trend that will continue into 2025. Now, this is a surprising trend that's coming up, and it is being influenced by interior design. You will be seeing in 2025 a lot of focus on futuristic, avant-garde, and tech-integrated interior design. So some of our florists already picked up on this trend. As you can see here, Jean-Pascal in Los Angeles, who is very much ahead of our times, has created these incredible arrangements. They are indeed futuristic, and maybe they are not quite fitting yet for retail business. But if you have any house accounts that are tech companies, or perhaps you're doing events with cutting edge, innovative companies, this is quite appropriate if they want to move away from traditional floral design in their events. Okay, now edible elements. This is quite common for the fall. In the fall, we see a lot of fruits and vegetables and plums and cherries and artichokes being incorporated in floral design in centerpieces, because this is in alignment with the harvesting season. But we actually noticed that edible elements were being used even in the spring and summer, with some florists adding strawberries and blackberries on a vine into their bouquets. And we predict that this trend will continue into 2025 because there is more desire to connect with nature. Now, vintage and, okay, dramatic layouts. Dramatic layouts are making a splash. Here you see beautiful arrangements by Beverly Hills Florists. So these are really rich in texture, color, and of course, volume. Now, we talked about high tech in interior design. Now, there is an opposing trend in interior design, which is vintage inspired. And this gives us more of that slow living, cozy, and nostalgic look. So we're seeing a lot of florists using vintage inspired vases. Now, we have a lot more trends that we will be announcing for 2025, so please keep an eye on our official Floral Trends report for 2025. And if you are a current partner or would like to partner with BloomNation, please leave us your email address and we will make sure to share that with you. And now let's address all of those questions, Farbod, that so many florists sent to us during the event.
Great. Yeah. I know we only have a handful of minutes, so we'll try to power through some of them. And if there are more questions, we can always answer them live on the chat as well. But just kind of jumping into it, one of the questions was asking about email marketing and how does it work within BloomNation for flower shops. I'll quickly give you just the high level, but I'd love to have Monty as well jump in and give his experience of how it is to have us power the email marketing. But there's two components to email marketing within BloomNation. One is the automated triggered marketing. So if someone orders for a birthday or anniversary, we will automatically remind them the following year to place another order ahead of time. We'll give them a heads up, like in 2 weeks from now, you want to send that arrangement. And then there's the seasonal or holiday driven marketing campaigns, which will excuse me, which will send out emails reminding people that it's Valentine's Day or Mother's Day or Admin's Day, and you'll be able to opt in or opt out of these campaigns. So you kind of get a calendar heads up on things that are going out. These are already pre-designed. They include photos of your arrangements ready so people can order them right from the email. But I'll let Monty jump in terms of the experience that they've had around email marketing.
Yeah, thanks for that, Farbod. Yeah, I mean, I kind of shared the exact statistics for us from September. But one of the things that it also does that Farbod didn't mention is that there are, like, if somebody's in your cart and they abandon the cart for any reason, they'll send follow-up emails for that as well. But again, the success of the email marketing is going to be determined by the amount of people that you have in your database. And that requires some work on all of our parts to bump up that database of customers. Because if they can have the best email marketing in the world, but if you're sending it to 2-3 people and you're getting a 40% open rate, you only have an opportunity to get one person. So we all have to do our part, and that's where SEM comes in, and all those types of things that allows you to create a bigger database so that the email marketing becomes more effective.
Yeah, that's great. You know you know it better than I do. You reminded me about the abandoned emails, which I forgot about. Thank you for that. Yeah, that's another important thing, is the abandoned cart stuff. Another question we had was just around, rebranding to try to become more profitable, to attract more customers. Maybe it's like around a professional floral design photo shoot or what for the website. I will say that the most important thing, in addition to just getting traffic to the site, is going to be the designs that you list on the site. You are not selling an iPhone where everyone knows exactly what it is and they're just purchasing from you because you're the seller. You are selling a piece of art, and in order for someone to appreciate what you're selling, you have to invest into the photographs. So for me, if rebranding meant you are investing in a photo shoot to have better photos, consistent photos for your website, I think that is a very important part of the recipe to success for an online flower shop. Now, you obviously need traffic to go to the site, so getting ranked on SEO and showing up in the local searches and all that, which, BloomNation or any other service, if you're using a good service, they'll be able to get you ranked there. But really, once someone lands on the page, that's going to drive your conversion, which is the second component, is going to be based on the photos, right? So that's a big part of it. So my answer to if rebranding is around better and more consistent photos, then yes, it can absolutely help you become more profitable. Another question we had was around just the formula for pricing and thinking about costs and labor and what the markups are. I think that goes into, the biggest problem that we see florists have is consistency around that. So sometimes you're just pricing things because you think it should be that price. You might be eyeballing it, but you absolutely do want to think about your cost of goods sold. As Monty was saying, have a mindset, or almost like an accountant mindset around this stuff, is look at it sterile. Like, the arrangement costs this much to make. You can think about the ingredients. You can think about the hard goods involved and the time it takes to make, which is a component that you should absolutely think about. If an arrangement takes an hour to make versus 10 minutes, that's a big difference in how much you're going to spend. And so you can come up with a consistent markup and price things out that way. And you can kind of evaluate and see if the customer is reacting to your prices being too high or too low. It depends on where you're located, depends on your design aesthetic, all these things. There's demographics. Like, if you're in Beverly Hills, it's going to be very different than if you're in the middle of the country. And so you kind of have to understand your market a little bit better and what people are willing to spend on stuff. But you do want to be consistent. I will say that in terms of having the formula, it's not that you have to have there's not one formula that works for everyone. The formula that works is consistency in your pricing. That's going to be really important. And lastly, I think we're coming up on time, but I'll answer one more question around the idea of value of classes and workshops, supplement income. These can be great, but they can also be very time consuming and unsuccessful. I think you really got to focus on building your core business, which is delivering everyday flowers, or it might be a wedding business, or whatever your core business is, and then leveraging that customer base to the idea of having classes and workshops. I don't think you can kind of do both and be successful unless you've done one really, really well from the start. So with that said, I know we're up on time, so I want to thank everyone who's joined. We'll try to still respond to questions, and maybe there's a way to reach out to everyone individually after this webinar is over. But I want to take the time to thank Monty. I know you're busy. There's a lot of stuff going on, and this is kind of his investment into our community. BloomNation it's almost like a big family, strong family community that we help each other out. And so Monty being part of that family we really appreciate you dedicating your time to help florists across the country and learning more and knowing how to do things better. So I appreciate your time.
Absolutely. And feel free to drop my email in the chat. If anyone has further follow-up questions, they can reach me, monty@watanabefloral.com. I'll be happy to answer whatever questions I have. If I can be of help to anyone out there, I am glad to do it.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And we'll send out Floral Trend Guide, There's a video on it. You can reach out to Monty. And until then, we really appreciate everyone and look forward to seeing everyone in the next webinar.
All right. Thank you, everyone. In Hawaii, we say mahalo.
Mahalo. Thank you very much.
Have a great day.